Welcome back to Close Mode, the enterprise sales show. And today I'm lucky enough to be talking to Mike Anderson. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Brian. Thanks so much for having me.
So, but by way of quick background, when I first started Close Strong, I was in an incubator, and Mike was part of that incubator, and one of my coaches. And Mike has been a coach of to CEOs of startups and tech companies for about 15 years. So, and today we're talking about AI and sort of speaking the language of AI. But before we get into that, Mike, give me a little background about your experience with AI.
Yeah, so I've been working in AI since 2017. To give you an idea of some of the projects that I've worked on, I was actually a delegate to the United Nations because the startup I was working with ran their data program. So here's how cool AI can be at scale. It can solve really big problems. One of the things we did is we built a series of AI models that were able to take satellite data from around like countries like around Africa, and it was able to. The first model was able to identify where all the farms were. So it outlined them and said, hey, this is a farm, they're growing wheat here, sorghum there. And then there was another model that said, well, what's the output of this going to be based on the visuals that we see? So we were actually able to understand how much of every type of food is going to be grown in an area so that before the end of that growing season, food could go to the right areas and they wouldn't put food to places where the farmers needed to sell it so that they wouldn't affect prices. And so that's just one example of how AI can solve massive global problems that we never thought about. And just to show you a little bit about the types of things I've worked on.
Cool. So when I first started my business and met you in the incubator, I recall one of the first calls where we were on with the CEO of Proda, who's our first institutional investors, and as a first time CEO of a tech company, all of you who were heavily involved in it were throwing words around. I was hearing, AI, of course, LLMs, machine learning, ChatGPT, generative AI, natural language processing. And Mike, while I was on that call, I was Googling some of these terms, right? And what I realized, and now thanks to you and others around me, like I have a much better grasp. But as you and I were talking a couple of weeks ago, I realized there's probably a lot of people that are in my space, like sales leaders, who are hearing all of these things. And I was embarrassed, quite frankly, to raise my hand and say, hey, help me out with some of this. So I subsequently did. But so I wonder, yeah, if you could, for those of us who are brand new to AI and we need to, at least at the very basics, understand how some of these things interrelate, what some of these things mean, what's the easiest way to kind of guide us to kind of a framework to think about this language?
Yeah, totally. So there's this I don't know if you've ever seen like the steps of grief that people have where they first deny it and then eventually
Yeah.
they are okay with it. That's where everybody is probably going to be over the next year. Because the reality is, like, if you think about how much changed in the last 20 years, more is going to happen in the next 2 years.
Yeah.
So just as we're all getting ready for a world where change is accelerating, it's important to just first start with yourself and realize, like, unless you're within a year or two of the end of your career, you will have a new career. It's
Yes.
going to be forced on you. The way that sales happens is going to change. The way negotiation happens is going to change. But that doesn't have to be a bad thing if you put in the time.
Yeah.
And so when we think about it, we need to start to create, at least a friendly relationship with the technology that we're going to be using so that we're not fighting it, right? Like, it took
Yeah.
forever for people to use a CRM. Like,
Yes.
still people don't want to necessarily use a CRM, but the CRM might feel like an extra job we have to do. But the
Yeah.
cool thing about AI is it's going to automate a lot of the stupid stuff that we don't want to do. And so
Yeah.
let's talk about what these models are, how they work. So if you think about what it would take to learn by watching a mentor, you would want to spend a lot of time with them. You would read
Yeah.
everything that they ever wrote. You would go find the books that they read and you would just pour through it, right? Like, I remember doing that with several people early
Yeah.
in my career. And because of that, I learned how they see the world. I got their perspective. The thing that's amazing about machine learning is it's a way for computers to be able to do that, but to be able to literally read everything you've ever written and to literally listen to everything you've ever said. And so these models, large language model is the name of what makes ChatGPT work.
Okay.
And what it did, literally, this is literally how it works, is they took everything that's ever been written and is available, and they played a game. And that game was guess what the next word was. So they would read a sentence, like the model itself will read a sentence and it'll be like, this is what I think the next word is. And then if it was successful, it would give itself a cookie and say, good job. If it was
Yeah.
unsuccessful, it would say, bad model. And it would,
Yeah.
it would say, throw all that out and let's learn something new. And so this is just basically a way of learning at super speed. And so knowing that, you don't need to get into the details, but knowing that, you should know I should become partners with this thing, not a competitor to this thing.
Right.
I shouldn't
Right.
see this as something that's going to take my job. I should see this as something that can accelerate what I'm capable of.
So is it fair to say that sort of AI is the top header, and large language models, LLMs, enable AI to work? Is that one way to think about it?
Yeah, so AI is a really broad word, right? Like
Right.
a
Right.
lot of developers don't actually like to talk about artificial intelligence because it's too broad. You'll hear them say machine learning,
Okay.
because what they're trying to do is teach machines how to learn. But actually, for most of us that are doing jobs where we're trying to accomplish something, we want artificial intelligence because I'm at the end of my own intelligence. I've got 12 meetings today, and
Yeah.
like I need an AI that can read through my stuff and help me know how to prepare. And so these are tools that we're all getting today. And so AI is at the top level. It describes the whole thing. Large language models are what allows you to be able to chat and have a conversation with your
And
computer.
and okay, thank you for that. And then going down a level, and then how does machine learning relate to those two?
Yeah. So machine learning is the process that you would use for training. And
Okay.
so you have something like most people have seen ChatGPT at least. They're at least aware, hey, there's this computer that I can have a conversation with and it kind of feels like a person. Well, that system can be augmented with information, right? And that information could be how every email you've ever written, all your Salesforce contacts. It can really know you, and it can actually be fine tuned to draft your email messages in your style.
So, what then is generative AI?
So generative AI. So when I was explaining how a satellite would work, that's
Yeah.
not generative AI because it's taking something that exists like fields and it's giving an output based on those. It's giving an inference is what it's called. Generative AI is when it's creating something new. And so you may have seen Midjourney. Midjourney is one of the visual generative AI tools. And
Okay.
I can go on there and I can write, hey, I have a sales contact that I'm talking with. They really love this baseball team. They love their orange cat. I want to make them a fun little image that I can put in the email so that it will create a connection. And I can just type that into Midjourney, and it will give me back an image. And I could even say do it in the style of Walt Disney or something like
Right.
that.
Right.
And it will literally give me something at that level. And that's because it's seen every image. It's seen everything Walt Disney did and every other artist. And it can actually give me an image, and that's generative AI.
Yeah. You said to me months and months ago that AI is the smartest person you've ever met in your life, right? And that really helped me grasp it. And I would say you were mentioning ChatGPT for again this particular show is focused on newbies, and if you haven't played with ChatGPT yet, I think that's like you and I can talk about these terms, but playing with it gives you a sense of what it's capable of doing. We did our mission, vision, and values, a few months ago, and redid them, and we had Chat GPT both rap it and then do it in a country song. So it's also and it did an amazing job, by the way. So it's also really fun to play with, and I think that's a great way to get a sense of its how smart it really is.
Yeah, just at Thanksgiving, I was sitting down with my grandpa who's getting dementia, and he goes, "So what do you do?" And so I'm like, "Oh, great. How do I explain what I do?" And I said, "Well, I work in artificial intelligence." He says, "What's that?" And I'm like, "Well, we're teaching computers how to think." He goes, "What?" And so I said, "Let me show you." I said, "Let's make a song together with an AI." And I said, "So tell me who's a musician that you loved when you were young?" He said, "Waylon Jennings." And then I said, "Give me a theme." And he said, "I want to remember easier times." And so I literally went into
Wow.
ChatGPT and I said, like, "Hey, I'm with my grandpa who has dementia. He grew up in Idaho, and I told him he wants to do a song with Waylon Jennings." It did the whole thing. It's called Doyle Remembers. And it was
Yeah.
such a meaningful moment because I was able to connect with my grandpa who doesn't really remember me anymore. And it's amazing what AI can do, because it's not just a technical tool, because it's trained on every human interaction ever. It can actually create beautiful moments. And
Yeah.
those are the things that the smart salespeople and the smart organizations are going to see, is that it not only automates processes, it brings human empathy to every situation.
You mentioned training a few moments ago, and we've been spending a lot of time on that. I'm curious to talk to you a little bit about this. So there's ChatGPT, which is what is it? It's like a snapshot of the internet from 2 years ago. Everything that was available in the world. Is that about right?
Yeah, more or less. It's starting to get access to search tools like Bing, and so it's
Okay.
getting smarter than that. But essentially, its core model is 2 years old.
Okay, so my CTO Jason was talking to me the other day about there's a lot of tools out there that are wrappers around ChatGPT. That it's just the at the core the tools people are using are like subtly influenced, but we're learning more and more about training and prompt engineering. So yeah, can you talk a little bit about how you kind of make a model yours, right? Where ChatGPT everyone has access to it, but how does it become yours to do a specific thing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I can use Close Strong as an example on this, because I actually am really bullish on Close Strong versus like
Yeah.
some big company like Salesforce that would try to do the same thing. And the reason is because corporations steal the humanity out of everything,
Yeah.
and they're going to make it boring. It's like thinking about a factory farm, right? So all of the sales leads that you're going to get through most of those big tools are going to look exactly the same. The thing that's really interesting is because you've got decades of writing that you've had as you've helped dozens or hundreds of companies in negotiation, you've got a very specific perspective that if we took everything that everybody's ever written about sales is going to totally go away. It won't be
Right.
specific and it
Right.
won't be directed. And so what Close Strong is able to do then is not only have the model like a ChatGPT or like a Llama 2, and those are great, but it's able to take all of this information from decades of experience and turn it into an output. So it's not only smart, it's specifically trained to be able to do a very specific task, which is sales negotiation. And
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. And the thing that's even cooler is what happens as people come on board and they start using it is it's not just trained after Brian's expertise, it's starting to get the expertise of an entire organization.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been calling that crowdsourcing, that at some point, it's going to be able to say, hey, that deal you're working on, Mike worked on a similar deal 2 months ago. And these were the value propositions he used to win. These were the commercial terms where he got pressure. Yeah. That's the part where it gets super exciting. And that I think that helps make that transition between sort of this general tool that's available to everybody and these sort of specific, you know, uh, like super wired consultants who are really smart at a thing, right? And
Yep.
that's yeah. When people talk about training, that helps it in my mind anyway to make it a little bit clearer. How so? Other when you think about other ways to use AI for sales, what are you seeing that's either out there or what do you think should be coming?
Yeah. So, we've gotten very used to marketing funnels, right? And we can kind of see them, but like your pipeline's never really exact like, and you kind of know that like you're making the numbers to hit the plan. And like, I don't know if this person's going to follow through. But what ends up happening with AI is it takes it from being just like a model on a board to there's actually somebody really smart looking at every single deal,
Yeah,
right? And so it will have insights and it will bring insights to the person who's acting on it. And ideally in the system, that AI isn't your boss that's trying to like force you into a
yeah,
situation.
yeah,
It's your guide or your co-pilot to help you be better. That's
yeah,
how that you definitely want that design. If you're a salesperson and your bosses are starting to use AI to watch what you're doing and to squeeze, like that's actually more like milking you like a cow. Like I'm going to get my salespeople butts in seats and I'm going to have AI just watch them. That's a bad situation. What we really want is the AI to come alongside and help you be more of yourself, to help you see in your blind spots, to help you then also understand this client and what their needs are. So now when you write to somebody, you can actually use the AI to help you craft what you're writing based on your style and their style.
right.
And these sorts of things get so interesting because we get to a spot now where instead of taking, instead of taking 30 minutes to draft the email and then think about it. You might be able to send out 25 emails that fast because it's able to draft them for you, and you're able to add a detail or change something.
Yeah.
And it's truly amazing how much more productive people can be using AI. And the people who don't use AI are going to find really quickly that they're going to have a very difficult time catching up with those who are early adopters.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that. I was speaking with Jim Dickey the other day, that some of our listeners might know, industry analyst, and he was saying that the AI tools coming out now are primarily on efficiency. So he's like, it will save you time, it will give you more time, but they need to begin moving for sales. AI tools for sales need to get to effectiveness. Because if it gives you more time and you keep doing the same things, right, then it's just more time to do the same things poorly. And I love that notion too. That's all of this is so new. I would say in our development, our CTO will come in and say, "Well, here's how we're doing this thing," and I was like, "Well, why didn't we do that?" Uh, 2 months ago, he said it just came out 4 days ago, right? That's this new way to get a things done, and that's now happening every week. Like there's a brand new way to do
Mm-hmm.
something, and it moves so fast. That's why it's helpful for me to at least uh, get to that point of saying, how do I even speak about this at the basic level? Because it's all moving so quickly. That's hard to keep up with. But I think understanding what is AI, what are large language models, that kind of thing really, really helps.
Yeah, I mean, when computers and the internet came out, we had decades to adapt. And then when social media came out, when a lot of the things like, Salesforce came out, we had years to adapt. Right now we only have months and weeks.
Yeah.
And that's scary, but it's also true. And so when we make peace with that, then we can actually take action, and we can make sure that we're in front of the wave and we're able to surf instead of behind the wave paddling to catch up, because it's really
Yeah.
tiring.
Yeah, it definitely is, and I'm seeing ways to like employ AI to bring things to scale that prior to that may have been, for example, the coaching experience. You talked about that. You do that in a human environment, a deal coach. It's quite expensive, and there's only so many you can do, but we're seeing these opportunities for a lot of activities. Back to the effectiveness thing, value added activities that we can now bring to scale that maybe we couldn't get to our reps, or a leader couldn't get. That it's like, wow, now we can do this like 24/7 on demand if we have the right tools in front of us.
Totally, because like real experts have to charge a lot of money because it took a long time to get to where they're at, and they have to keep learning. And so you might pay something like 500 or even $2,000 an hour to get access to some of these
Yes.
experts. When those experts can then take all of their knowledge and they can start to put it into models that can be right there with me as I'm trying to do the task, I just got an email or even a phone call from from a procurement person that's trying to break my deal into pieces and like win only for themselves and not for all sides. Now I actually can have a tool live that I'm writing into, and it's giving me feedback so I can make smart decisions in that moment. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Or you can call me. I'm happy to walk you through that. So we have a little
I'll call you.
expertise.
Not everybody on here is going to have your cell phone number.
Exactly. This is cool. This like I said, it really. I was trying to get after a problem that I struggled with, and for those newbies, like what's the basics. So anything else that you would add? I had talked about go play with ChatGPT as a newbie, and maybe get over whatever barriers we might have and realize it's fun and it adds a lot. What else would you say to a sales leader or a CRO who's new to this? What's the first couple of things they can do beyond listening to our conversation to get themselves kind of up to speed, the current state?
Yeah, so I would say, take an evening when it's just your own time and you don't have to rush or do anything like that. If wine's your thing, or go to a bar, whatever you need to do, sit down and download ChatGPT, the app, and use the audio. You could use the audio version even, so you just have a vocal conversation with it,
Yeah,
and just explore a subject that you're interested in. If you like baseball, talk about baseball. If
yeah,
you like trains, talk about trains. Whatever your thing is, just have a conversation with it and see how far you can push it. Because what you'll see is it's like, oh, the thing that I'm the nerdiest about or that I like the most in the world, I actually now have a peer that knows as much as I do, if not more, and can actually have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
That's step number one. What I would recommend for salespeople as step number two is start to talk to your clients and your stakeholders about generative AI and ask them how they're using it. Start to bring them in on it because they're probably going through the exact same thing.
Yes.
I can tell you right now, there's a huge amount of terror in amongst people whose businesses ChatGPT feels like it's getting close to what they do. Like all
Yeah.
the graphic designers and creative folks I know right now are like, boy, the contracts are coming in slower than they used to. Things aren't working the same. But if you have those conversations, now all of a sudden, even though you're just exploring it, you're now the expert. And I can tell you what, every single one of your customers is going to be thinking about AI over the next 12 to 24 months.
Yes.
It's going to be that thing that's interrupting every plan that everybody's made. Some in good ways, some in bad ways.
Yeah. I read a quote a few months back that said, was it software ate the world and then AI ate software. So it really brought it into context for me, like how large this is. It's probably even bigger than the advent of software. So
way bigger.
This has been really helpful, and it's great to see you again. And hopefully we'll have you back at some point.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Mike.